Good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. My name is Cassie King, and we have a couple other folks from Mothers Against Addiction on this call today, but we want to give you all a warm thank you and welcome this morning for joining our first speaking engagement via Zoom. So for those of you that are new to our mission, Mothers Against Addiction is a nonprofit. We support in healing the empowerment of mothers that are facing addiction challenges. We offer support, resources, and one of the things we've just launched is today our first speaking engagement. We will have these every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Time. So we are thrilled to have you all joining us. Before I hand it over to our first guest speaker, Christina Goebel, just running through a few things. Since we're on Zoom this morning and we are recording, I'm going to ask that everyone mutes themselves unless they're speaking. And if you would like to ask a question, you're more than welcome to put something in the chat, or you can use the raise your hand feature, which you should be able to see at the bottom of your screen. If you are had on full screen, you'll say raise hand, and then we can make sure that you're unmuted so that you can ask your question or participate in the conversation. We are recording this session today so that it can be put up on our website. So we want to make sure we preserve all of your confidentiality. So you know, anything you speak out loud, your face will come up and that will be shown. So if that is not something you're comfortable with, you are more than welcome to type in the chat and we will verbally speak it out loud for the group so that we can address it or answer the great questions that you have. We are going to turn over rather quickly to our wonderful first guest. Her name is Christina Goebel. She is an inspirational author, advocate, and mother. She has published several books, and we are blessed to have her joining us this morning to talk about her journey with personal loss and public advocacy. We're going to allow her to give her presentation, and then we'll at the end for questions, conversation, so that we can all have a nice wrap-up conversation with her. Before I hand it over to her, we'll want to acknowledge that we do have interpreter services by Monica Parks this morning as well, who has been gracious to give us her services this morning. Christina, I'd love to pass it over to you.
Okay, well, thank you. I want to thank Cassie, Eva, Donovan, the rest of the Mothers Against Addiction team for having me here. It means a lot, the message that you have. And since I was personally infected in so many ways by addiction, I'm really thankful for the opportunity to participate and for the work that you're going to continue doing after my speaking today, right? You're going to keep having more people come forward, share their stories. You have meetings also for Mothers through the week. And so there's a lot of opportunity for people to problem solve as a community, which is one of the top things that I recommend when dealing with addiction. We're all trying to understand addiction, and we're all impacted with it all over the world. And we do think in some other countries that drugs and alcohol are not a problem, but across the board, I'm hearing from people, it's a problem everywhere. And it's not easy to understand. And so my name is Christina Goebel. I'm author of GoldenHeart, How to Love Humanity. GoldenHeart II, We Are Your Family. And so the first book is a love manual with an immersive love experience where I teach you how to love more, including how to love yourself, how to love others, and eventually expanding your message to humanity, which is what Mothers Against Addiction is doing. You're taking that message, you're expanding it beyond one person, which is exactly the entire goal of GoldenHeart, is that all of us do that. And then where your family is for orphans and people without family members, it's family in a book with advice for a lifetime so that you could pick it up any day of the week and feel like you have a family member there talking to you. And it's I was co-authored with 35 authors from around the world with a different variety of viewpoints. I even have a Buddhist monk who wrote in there. So I think it's my message about love expands into all the elements. I mean, what does addiction have to do with love? Why is it intersecting so deeply with my mission? And I'll tell you why it does. It hinders our addiction hinders our ability to love and be loved. And a lot of people don't realize that, addiction hinders our ability to love and to be loved. And so in so many ways, we want to love people, but sometimes the behaviors that come through addiction are not too lovable. And the people who have an addiction want to be loved, but they're not getting it often because of behaviors. And so it's like an endless circle. And the healing element within most relationships, within life, within our society, is increasing the love. So you're not going to hear judgment here. You're going to hear acceptance today, because we don't look at people who have a mental health crisis as bad. It's just a fact of life. It's something that happens. Addiction is something that happens. And so it's judging is outside of the parameter of problem solving. So we need to get to the problem solving phase and help and support people. So I've been personally affected by addiction in so many ways, and that's one of the things that I'll be talking about today. I lost a cousin, my favorite cousin, Elmer. I remember playing football with him every Thanksgiving, and he was much older than me, and he was so nice, and, would let me play tackle football. He was the only cousin who would actually tackle me. And, some of your older male cousins, little girl, would just be kind of, she's too little to hang out with. He was so accepting, so loving, so kind. And in a moment, he was gone in a drunk driving accident. And somebody else hit him. And it's sad to think that by the time he was 18, he was gone. Then I had a cousin and his wife both lost to drug addiction involving meth, alcohol, and eventually health problems related to that. And seeing their child left an orphan is pretty tough. So I have 3 addiction stories, main stories that this is hinging on, and I'm going to talk about a failed intervention, because intervention, you see it on TV and you're like, I'm just going to get G'd out and my family member, and it's like, hold on. An attempted suicide and major causative factors for addiction and some information about brain studies. The first one is I had a wonderful coworker, hilarious woman, and we were good friends many years ago. And over getting to know this person, then they invited me to go to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings with them, and they informed me that they were, going to they were recovering from alcohol and drug use, but they were going to the Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. So I went with them many times. I saw the STEPS programs and how they were working, and they explained to me the system, and they really liked the chips there. A lot of people like the chips at the Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, which means that, if you've been sober for a month, you get like a little award, and people get called forward, and then you see some people, 20 years sober, and it's inspiring. So they're very encouraging. And then they have sponsors within the Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, people who have been where the addict is, where the alcoholic is, and they've been through the process, so they can call them when you feel like you're backsliding. Remember that in addiction, regression is part of that process. Sometimes you try to quit, bad thing happens, you go back, then you pick up and you start working towards your sobriety again. So you don't have to give up if you decide that you're going to quit alcohol or drugs. No, you just pick back up. That's what everybody's doing in these groups, and so they help one another. And so I remember one day, knowing that my friend was on this journey, I walk into the bathroom one day and I see they've got a tourniquet around their arm and they're sheeting up. And I was like, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm sheeting up some pain medicine, and they went ahead and started up and they were sheeting it up. And I was like, well, why? And I thought you wanted to be sober. And they're like, it's just today. And I mean, they had a major crisis. They had a son. They wanted to be good mom. But things were going on in the background. They were really battling this. They were on methadone. The methadone was making them high, they told me. And methadone is a drug that people take to get off of alcohol because of what alcoholism does to the brain. It's trying to undo some of that stuff so that they can actually work towards your sobriety. But in that case, I don't know if it triggered that person, but it seemed like it did because they were looking forward to getting it. So, in any case, one day they weren't around anymore. I couldn't reach them. I couldn't contact them, and I called their house. And their family told me they tried to commit suicide, and so they told me later that they felt so bad they relapsed and they got drunk. They felt so bad that before the family came home, they slit their wrists, they got into the bathtub, and they just started letting themselves bleed out. And family came home just in time, and they were able to get them into the hospital. And then from the hospital, because it was a crime to kill yourself in that state, they were put into a mental health facility for the state. And I went to visit them there, and I mean, a lot of people, they loosely say, oh, well, you're crazy, but crazy doesn't know crazy is. So when you see people who truly have some of the deepest mental health problems, it's a completely different thing, And so, like, when I called my friend and we were talking on the phone, they said, who is he? They were screaming at her, who is he? It's the husband. He hates you. And it was like, it was a tough place, really tough place for her to be after such a traumatic incident. But the reason I share the story is to say sometimes we think, you see the addict and you think that they're not being responsible. You think that they don't care about the fact that they keep using. And that's not the case. Okay, some of it taken extremely seriously, and backsliding could be traumatizing for them. So I just want everybody to realize that. Okay. Now, as far as intervention, intervention often catches an addict or alcoholic off guard. You see it on TV. You think, oh, well, we'll just get all the family members together and we'll tell them what? We see that you've changed and you're different. We want to hold you back. Things are getting out of control in your life, and it's truly overwhelming. So, unfortunately, I did 2 interventions, and the first intervention, I just tried to have it with me and another person, and my father, his story I'll get to in a little bit. And in that one, he kind of just fobbed it off, and he said, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm just going to continue doing it. And you're just there with the other person kind of going, oh, okay. So then I had a larger family intervention, and again, not consulted a professional, which I highly don't recommend. And so what happened was then I put two people within the family, and not one stormed out of the room, and probably I've never had the same relationship. Another one was just took it in stride and kind of blew it off. Either way, total failure. Total failure. And so the thing is I discovered with alcoholics and addicts, they don't want to be confronted by somebody who is coming from a place of, well, I've never been where you're at, but I'm telling you how to behave. They want someone coming to them saying, I've been there, I've done that, I've earned my sobriety, you could do it too. And it's a completely different approach. So you need to have an experienced person who does intervention. You need to talk to them about their strategy and how they're going to handle it, and see if it would respect your family members and the culture within your family or your friend environment before you take on intervention. Because like I said, you can create a barrier, you can create walls between yourself and other people simply by taking this step and using the wrong approach or the wrong words. So I'm highly recommending that for professionals, okay? But what's the alternative to intervention is the other problem. I mean, it's like, okay, let's say I don't do any intervention with my family member. I let them stay the course. So, my father was a drug addict, and marijuana was his drug of choice in the beginning for most of his life. And, he was, it affected the whole family, and he was kind of a Cheech and Chong type hothead, like major to the major degree, but not in front of us. But we knew. I mean, you couldn't help but know. It literally, everything in life was timed around, okay, he's going to get high and then we're going to go somewhere. And he's going to get high and then we're going to do something. He's going to come home, he's going to get high and then we'll be able to talk to him. It all centered around that. And it was rough, but I was the oldest child. Okay. And so the side effects within the family was he had a horrific temper. Something that police officers say is they would much rather encounter an alcoholic driving. Was that his time or something? Okay. They would much rather encounter an alcoholic than somebody who's high, because they're seeing more aggression. Police are saying that they're seeing more aggression for people who are smoking pot. And so they're more worried when they see someone's been doing that. As the years went by, his behavior was less appropriate. So one time he came to a church activity wearing a T-shirt with curse words on it and reeking of marijuana. And I was just so, my pastor's there. I was just like, okay. Finally, towards the end of his life, he gets arrested, driving under the influence, and a Walmart where drivers saw him just like, I can only imagine maybe driving 8 miles down the highway where it was 65. I don't know. So I get arrested, and then I have to be checked weekly to make sure that they're not doing drugs and stuff like that. So it was nice to have a sober father for a year during that time. And I was hopeful that, okay, well, maybe government has stepped in at the end of, his life, like when he's already in his late 50s or 60s, maybe everything's going to be fine. But that opened the door to K2. So then when Dad started doing K2, it was awful. Okay. So they were smoking and getting high, but the reaction in the body was so severe that it would make them vomit. And then they liked the high so much, they would do it again and then vomit again. And where they were able to talk, they couldn't really talk anymore or interact. And it's essentially eventually became like a vegetable. Towards the end of his life, I could play cards with him. I could play dominoes. At one point, I remember thinking he's about like a 3-year-old. He was on 10 medicines because there's a lot of things related with drug use and, the health of your body. So eventually his health was awful. Was after he after he died on K2, he no longer cared about living. And he started requesting bags of bacon, and he would eat bacon all day, and then he would say he was going to die he said the exact year he was going to die. That's the year he died. And why would he want to die? I mean, he was functional, he had a good salary, but there was lingering resentment from the family, lack of respect for somebody who was not sober. And for many men, that's one of the most important things in the world, to be respected. And we just couldn't give it. I mean, you want somebody to be able to talk and interact. You want to be able to go to the store or to the movies or something, and they act like they know what's happening. And they didn't act like that way. So, is proper intervention worth the effort? Yeah, I mean, who else is going to do it? We can't wait for government to take on responsibility, because government and everybody else expects the family and friends to take on that responsibility. So everybody can put it aside. But the truth is that somebody's got to be responsible. Okay. Now, at a point, sobriety is their choice. So we can't choose for them. We can influence them potentially. If we say the right words, we come out the right way, we're waiting for the right time. But still, we can't choose for them. So sometimes some family members are going to choose for themselves to not be sober. And then you have to determine for you where you're going to sit in that scenario. Okay? Are you going to be in their company, Now, one time I was accompanying a friend to clinical rehabilitation, that's from drugs and alcohol, and mandatory anger management. Now they got in trouble. I mean, big time. Because if you've been mandated for 3 months of clinical rehabilitation and anger management, somebody determined you can't do drugs and alcohol. Okay? And I loved that experience. I held on to it so much because, you're immediately thinking, okay, I'm going to apply this. One of the things I remember is sitting in this room of people and hearing their stories and noticing that other addicts and alcoholics are going, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. Or they'll say it to a person, wow, that was cold. When other addicts are saying, I did this, I did that, but you're in an open environment, right? It's private, it's not doing outside. And so, but they're like, wow, and so you're feeling safe to be able to say what you did and get some feedback and talk about it. And you kind of knew what was wrong, but now that you're getting sober, you really can look back at your path and see what you did wrong, maybe through the eyes of others, and be able to go back to that person and maybe make amends. So what's happening with the addicts and this improper behavior sometimes, and the alcoholics, is that so many parts of the brain are affected by drugs and alcohol. So the part of the brain that assesses right and wrong is hindered while high. That's why a lot of people make poor decisions when they're drunk and high. And most of us, we know this, okay? But we're probably not processing is happening in the brain. And so sensing the high is replacing the brain's natural stress chemicals, so the body stops producing stress chemicals like serotonin and dopamine that naturally let you calm down when you start to get stressed out. Sometimes you don't even notice that you're getting stressed out. You're getting ready for work and you're not even realizing that you're dreading traffic, but your body is naturally just putting chemicals through your brain is helping processes so that you're able to maintain an even feeling. Okay. Well, when you start doing that, you get a dopamine overflow when you do drugs, and so the regulation of these chemicals that's naturally making you feel calm and like you can deal with life is now all messed up. The brain's reward circuit, which is the basal ganglia, stops responding to things that make you happy. So then, the only thing that makes you happy is the drug. So not only can you not calm down, not relax, because those chemicals, the brain has decided, hey, I don't need to make those chemicals because this chemical is coming into us and it's doing the job for us. So you can't feel happy, you can't relax, you can't calm down. And that substance becomes something that your brain needs. And if you want to feel happy, if you want to relax. So the drug and alcohol also hijacks the neurons in the brain. It's attacking them, causing them to overfire. So even the way that your brain functions is either accelerated, slowed down, and so the whole brain is going through this whole traumatic event. So virtually every logical, emotional, neurological response in the brain is impacted by drug and alcohol use. So getting high and drunk has lasting impacts on the brain over time. Some of those impacts last months, some years, some are permanent. Some of you probably have friends who used to do heavy drugs in the past, and you'll see they got tics. They have things that attack their nervous system from which they didn't recover. So if you want to know why addicts in your family that you might know don't make sense, it's because the brains don't make sense. The brains are not behaving in a natural way. They have supplemented what's happening naturally with something unnatural. So what happens is that their brains don't make sense to your brain. And your brain starts to question what's going on. And your brain senses there's a problem. It assesses the words, it assesses the behavior of the other person. It says, this is not natural. And so then a lot of people who are in families of addicts actually end up using substances like Benadryl to get some kind of melanie so that they can cope. But really, their brain is saying, the things that I'm seeing coming from this loved one are so weird that I can no longer process it. And maybe your brain is even questioning, why am I here? So, does the brain heal? Often, yes. Okay, so, but I do know meth addicts who developed schizophrenia. For a while, they didn't recognize their family members at all. And then eventually, they became themselves. But it happened within months. They went from normal person to complete schizophrenic, didn't know anybody in their life, did not recognize anybody in their life. All their behavior patterns changed, including their sexual preferences. It was odd. And so, yes, short-term use can also dramatically impact the brain, but there's hope, right? Now, my younger siblings, they never met the father that I knew, okay, because I was 10 years older, so his brain changed in the 4 to 10 years between our age differences. Yeah, he became hungrier, less rational, more inappropriate, but he still maintained a high-level career. So it's important to know that, even the weekend warriors, after years, they can become addicts. So daily use is not needed for somebody to become an addict. And now, why do people use? Now, if you're a mom with a child that has an addiction, if you have another family member with an addiction, even if you're an addict yourself, the things that I've shared with you now, I think are going to highlight some of the reasons behind why people use. And one of them is pain. It makes all the sense in the world that you don't want to feel pain. But what I notice about alcoholics and addicts is that they tend to think that a pill or alcohol or drug is the only solution for pain. Now, many of us know there's a variety. Like one morning I woke up, my back was hurting. I put the heating pad on my back, and I did the roll-on biofreeze on my back, and I didn't need any pills whatsoever. But some of us have to have a more holistic, integrative look at health because there's many things that fight pain. So Rutgers Addiction Research Center Research Center spent decades, looking at genes, and they said that, and this is something that we got to consider, is that, alcohol addiction is about 50% heritable, genetic. Addiction to drugs can be as much as 70% heritable. But that is not having as much impact as the environment in which a person is in. So if a person is around people using, they're far more likely to use than the people who have it genetically. But we do have to consider that even when they're thinking about using, that you can impact your genetics of your family. Okay. Now, studies are, so the number 2 surprising cause is that a lot of people with addicts, with addictions, I noticed, and alcoholism, they didn't have hobbies. So having a well-rounded life is really important. I mean, some of the times I was asked if people, hey, what are you going to do this weekend? And they're trying to get sober, and they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I going to do this weekend if I can't drink? They literally had attached drinking to every single activity in their life, including conceived playing water volleyball in the pool without drinking. So people need activities right now to do. Take it into effect that you could also, look at time. Oh, the other surprising cause was, let's see, trauma. So a lot of people would have trauma, overwhelming emotion, and they try to bury that. And I think that is one of my father's causes. A lot of traumatic events happened when he was young, started, doing these things. So in the end, what can we do to help prevent addiction? If we're getting close to that, early prevention really helps. And people scared me so much about cocaine at school, at home, everywhere I heard it. Cocaine is so scary that the day that somebody came to me and offered me cocaine on a matchstick, I was able to say, okay. Develop a variety of interests hobbies, commit to sober and sane driving, of course, and honor for all the people that we've lost. Consider childbearing age effect that drug use might have on family members. Remember that you or your person are not the addiction. The addiction is separate behavior. Your person is still there underneath those behaviors. So, be sober. One of the most difficult things for a recovering alcoholic is an addict is to have people around them still abusing. And almost always they're going to get back to it. Be loving, because loving is a healing force. Choose an elevated path. You choose the best path for you. And sometimes it's out the door to show them that, hey, I'm not going to stand by and watch you destroy yourself. So addicts are going to take a stand against their addiction only when they reach rock bottom. And I remember a guy telling me, I always thought that my rock bottom as an alcoholic was going to be begging for money on the street homeless. And then when he got homeless, he said, that wasn't my rock bottom. But he said, I'll tell you what my rock bottom was. My rock bottom was when I woke up in bed naked, with a man on one side of me naked, a woman on the other side of me naked, and I didn't know which one of them I slept with. So, and then finally, consider joining support groups for you, for them. People need counseling where they're dealing with this trauma. Don't try to go through this kind of pain, especially if it's excessive pain alone. That's not what we're designed for. You're not designed to be alone, or a lone lion in the wilderness. And always remember that love heals. It's a long journey. It takes time. It takes a lot of love, but you can do it. And lots of people that I've worked with have done it. And so you shouldn't be any exception of your loved one. Shouldn't be any exception that we should have all the hope and love and faith that they can do this. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Christina. I would love to open it up to any questions, comments that the group has. You can raise your hand using the function at the bottom so we can make sure we're taking turns asking Christina questions, or you can write in the chat if you have anything you would like to comment or a question that you have for Christina or the group.
I have a question for Christina. This is Eva. Can you tell us how you tied in your Golden Heart books 1 and 2 with your experiences on helping people with addiction?
Yes. So the way that I looked at it, Eva, is addiction hinders a person's ability to love and to be loved. And when a person's high, for example, they're not thinking about loving behaviors. They're not thinking about the consequences of their action. These parts of the brain are disengaged. And so there's two ways of looking at it, right? The damage that addiction can do to families and friendships and workplaces, but also the damage that it can do to myself if I choose not to be sober. I'm going to hinder my ability to love people, because then the focus becomes on me, feeding my brain the chemicals that make my brain incapable of processing not just what's going on with other people, but processing the appropriate behaviors for myself. So socially appropriate behaviors would have been cut off.
I think Donovan had a question. Donovan, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Yeah, sure. Good morning. First, thank you so much for speaking, Christina. Really great to hear you speak. We're the first say that. My question is kind of like a general question. What advice would you give maybe to a parent that is currently in a situation where their child is going through addiction, having a really tough time? What advice would you give, like, as far as practical, doing an intervention, reaching out to someone, talking to your child? What are some basic steps people can take?
Okay. I was middle and high school English teacher for 14 years, and that's really applicable to that question, Donovan, so thanks for asking. The first thing that I would recommend to anybody who has a child with addiction is talking to your child, spending time with your child. If you have multiple children, take just that child out, take each one out equally, okay? But spend time with each of your children doing fun activities and wait and give them an opportunity to explain to you what's happening. Now, at school, they usually have counselors, advisors, who may have on hand some resources so you can speak privately with them first, and then perhaps they could speak with your child, and then maybe y'all could all speak together. But you want to maintain their confidentiality, because they need to be speaking honestly about why they're using and what's prompting it, and what's triggering them and things like that. So that's necessary. As a family, you'll also need help, because you need someone to talk to, and you can't be yelling and screaming and telling your kid, I'm having such a hard time because of your addiction. It's ruining my life. I mean, they're worried about their life being ruined, not your life. And so you need someone to talk to as well. So getting everybody into groups, into people who can speak. Now, if they start to get out of hand, and you start to worry for their life, then an intervention is going to be needed, and you're going to have to seek out. Those counselors at school will help you find resources, and there's another wonderful resource I give to you guys. It's through the United Way. you dial in the United States 211 211. And 211 is for social services. So you ask them for anything you need. You can't pay your rent this month. Hey, I need help paying my rent this month. But they could also help you find intervention resources. They could help you find counseling resources and things like that. There's always free things out into society. And then don't forget that a lot of you have churches or houses of worship that you could go to, and you can also get support there. But the thing is, it's a nurturing environment because you can very quickly lose a teenager to the pressures that surround them.
Thank you, Christina. Heather, I believe you have your hand raised. If you'd like to unmute and ask your question or comment.
Yes, I have somebody else sitting with me too, and we both have questions.
Perfect.
My question is, what kind of activities, if you have kids, what kind of activities do you suggest that you do with your kids?
Okay, so it's age appropriate, right? And so elementary school, I'm hoping we're facing that. Elementary school, we really need to get that counseling in. But let's say middle school, high school. So activities are based on your child. So they like to read, take them to the bookstore. Some of them, they have like a little coffee shop. Take them to the bookstore, like a coffee shop, get them a hot chocolate or something. Take them out for a meal. If they like to play baseball, for example, you might go to a batting cage. So what you're hoping is that your conversations come up naturally. They're having fun with you. They're feeling comfortable. And now maybe they can confide in you, or towards the end of that activity, they've expended some energy and they're more receptive into just saying a few things. But it's really, what are their dreams? What are their goals? Or is there anything, there's a challenge in your life? And you're just trying to get to really know that child. As they meet more people, they start building their own identity. They will quickly become someone you don't know so well. And that's okay. But at the same time, you've got to meet them where they're coming from.
Thank you. Okay, and there's one more question.
Okay, my question, Christina, is what you were saying about trauma. Can you kind of expound on that a little bit?
Okay, so a lot of people don't know what to do with too much.
Oh, my name is Deborah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
My name is Deborah. Hi, Deborah.
Hi.
A lot of people, they don't know what to do with too much emotion. And so they don't have strategy. So it's just like with pain. We've got to help them develop the strategy and awareness of holistic medicine. That is, I don't always have to have a pill or alcohol or something to kill my pain. So what I do with my trauma? Well, young people in particular, they're developing their little toolkit of resources. What I do when my boyfriend, my girlfriend broke up with me, and I want to die, and they're crying for hours, and they just want it to stop. And then their friend says, hey, let's get high. Don't think about it. So you have to have something to compete with that. It's like, what do we do? So, like one of the things that I do is I watch funny movies. So they see that's a strategy. Watch funny movies. It may not work for them, though. So you got to help them find their strategies that help them cope. Some people, they want to just sit in a quiet room. Some people, they want to physically exert themselves. They want to work out really hard or go play football and knock other players around on the field. So you've got to find out what works for them to help them. When we say, hey, let's try this, let's try that. I know you're feeling a lot. And the other thing is, and I had a lot of people were telling you, cover up emotions, don't accept emotions. Really? Is that what we want to teach? Because then they're going to try to bury those emotions. How about if you feel the emotions, you can get through them? And so allow yourself an hour or two, and you'll get through it. Or if you try to bury it, it's going to stay with you forever.
Thank you.
These are all great questions. Other questions? Oh, Go ahead.
Sorry, I raised my hand up. Thank you very much, Christina, for the very elaborate, speech. Really appreciate, taking us through the addiction and stuff like that. What happens, what doesn't happen, and stuff like that. I got a question for you, and my question is, how do I help my friend who is struggling with alcohol addiction? And by the way, I've just logged in from Kenya. I'm in Nairobi.
I'm loving to see friends from around the world and around the country. It's so exciting. So, hi to Levon in Kenya, and I saw Elsie over in India, and people in different places. So, okay. So, guys, if you have a friend who is dealing with alcohol addiction, the first thing that you want to do is not drink around them. I would request that of anybody who has a friend, family member who is an alcoholic, and we all say, well, if I'm not an alcoholic, so I could just drink, a margarita or wine, and it's no big deal. I'm not getting drunk. All they're thinking during that entire meal or interaction that you're having is the fact that you've got a beer, or you've got a wine, or you've got a margarita. That is literally their brain focusing on that, saying, I need that. I need to supplement my brain chemicals with that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to find fun activities to do, preferably ones that don't allow you to have a drink in your hand, like playing football or soccer, or driving, go-karts, or playing baseball, or doing, very active activities, hiking in the mountains, and hiking in forest, and kayaking, and just get real into the physical life. Got it? Not look at the stars, study the constellations, show them the energizing activity. See, because going hiking to the top of a mountain or kayaking a couple of miles, we're not thinking about it. But that is also elevating our brain chemicals, but in a wonderful way, not in a dangerous way. So finding that, and then finding, it's just, especially with friends, you don't have as much ownership sometimes for friends as you with family members, right? That you be a listening ear. You just make sure that you are available. If they say, things are getting unmanageable, or if they talk about suicide or something like that, then it's time to help get them into more support with the crisis centers, counseling, churches. What were you going to say about that?
Well, that's quite very comprehensive and very detailed. I really appreciate that response, Christina. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. It's so fun. It's so fun to see some of my friends from around the world here. So it's like, it's great.
Well, you're international, so you have a very, kind of wild outlook, which is very good.
Oh, thank you. I think it's experiential. It's a very highly experiential outlook. I just had the blessing of interacting with thousands and thousands of people, and it's really enabled me to have insight into things that a lot of people wouldn't normally have this insight in. At my age, I'd probably have to be 150 to have this experience, just knowing 30 people a year. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask another question? If I can be allowed, yeah.
Sir?
What are the signs of gambling addiction? Because like place like you have this gambling city, yeah, in the U.S. Everybody knows about it. I'm not going to talk about it, but how do you get up? How do you get over this gambling addiction? Because I know a lot of people, they put a lot, the money that they put in, it is a whole lot. You can't even imagine. How do you get over it?
Well, gambling addiction, any addiction. I mean, if you want to know what's an addiction, maybe you've been asking yourself, am I an addict? One is they can't live without it. Two, their lives become unmanageable. And unmanageable means they're broke and they can't stand being broke. So, and they can't imagine a day or a week without gambling. Then it starts to become an addiction. And all the sources of addiction are looking at, okay, all I need to do for things is to reestablish balance in my life. If I find out anything interferes with quality of my life, I need to consider where it belongs. So you would think, oh, well, when I got Game Boy, I played with it all the time, and I was playing Final Fantasy, and this is when it first came out and stuff. And I played and I played and I played, and I got lost in the Final Fantasy world. And then my little son comes to me and he goes, "Mommy, when are we going to have dinner?" I look at my watch, it's 11 p.m. I had a problem. I get him the Game Boy now, and he's an addict. To gaming. I'm joking because that's, his chosen career. But what I say is it was unmanageable for me. So even though it's just me playing a game, and even though it's one day, I recognized in myself the ability to harm others because of what I was doing, and therefore I removed from my life whatever harms others. Because why? It's part of loving yourself. It's part of being able to respect and honor yourself, that you do things that make you feel good about who you are. So that no matter who you're interacting with, you have a kind of peaceful, happy balance in life.
Thank you so much, everybody, for your questions today. We're going to start wrapping up as we hit rapidly approach the hour mark. But I do want to take a moment to just thank you, Christina, for sharing your story today. We very much appreciate your presence and in your story and the conversation that we had. I want to also appreciate our interpreting services as well from Monica. That was a wonderful service that you could provide to our attendees today, and so we appreciate you. For everybody that joined, thank you so much for being here for our kickoff of our guest speaker engagements. We do invite you to come back again. We will have these engagements every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Time here in the United States. It will be on Zoom, and they will be weekly with a bunch of different speakers. Topics such as people sharing stories, like Christina Goebel today, sharing her inspiration. We will also have people from all different types of lives that interact with addiction in a variety of ways, as well as professionals touching on some of those topics that are in addiction or in mental health fields. How to support loved ones, your children, whether they're adults or still child. Trauma, grief. There'll be a variety of topics, so please make sure you stay tuned. Join us. You can check out our website as well and continue the conversation on our forum, listen to our podcast logs. This video will be there as well. If you really had someone that wanted to join today but they couldn't, they absolutely can watch the recording when it is up on our website. For all the mothers that are here today, we do have a Monday night Mother's Share. That is every week, 8 p.m. Central Time here in the United States. It is all about mothers sharing their story, relating on various topics where the crossroads of addiction impacts mothers in a very specific way. So please join us for those sessions as well. Christina, any parting words for the group before we let everyone enjoy their Saturday?
Yes, I want to thank everyone for attending and coming. And I want to encourage y'all in the struggle, all the struggles against addiction, and to be our best selves and to share love in the world. That's really what it's about. So I know that you're getting impatient. You want everything to be solved in a day. Who doesn't? But that's what I would, the parting thought is it's a process. So get the process time and keep the faith that, a war isn't won in a day. And you might lose a battle, but you don't have to lose a war. So you could just keep going at it. Those of you who are spiritual, keep praying and have confidence that eventually solutions will come.
We do have a survey on the chat to fill out. There's a link. It is anonymous, so it brings back other guest speakers. So please feel free to fill that out as well. It's a quick 1 minute sign up.
Great call, Eva. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you joining today. Have a wonderful Saturday, and I hope to see you join us again soon. Thank you, everyone.